This is Andy Perrault for Boxing Social, and I'm delighted to be joined by Matchroom Boxing CEO Frank Smith here at today's open workout ahead of Saturday night, where Anthony Joshua defends his unified world heavyweight titles for the first time over here in the States. Frank, how are you?
It's great. It's got a bit loud again, hasn't it? Yeah, very good. We did this last night, obviously, but everyone kept on disturbing us, so we've got to do it all again. So I've auditioned every answer.
I'm going to try and throw a few extra questions in there just to throw you off, but we'll start off obviously with the main event, Joshua-Ruiz. From all your knowledge, how have you seen and what do you know about Anthony's change in his preparations on the back of a change of opponent?
Yeah, look, you know, Anthony is a professional through and through. He's got a great team behind him. As soon as we found out about the Miller change, he started sort of adapting his training then, and you know, now with Ruiz, he's got a game plan. He's worked to go on a game plan for the perfect fight against Ruiz. So, you know, don't get me wrong, it's not ideal. It never is, but it's part of the sport we're in. So and as I say, he's a professional. He's done everything he needs to do, and he'll go in there and he'll deliver a great performance as always.
His debut in America. And then you also consider the fact that Deontay Wilder knocked out Dominic Brazil in one round last week. Is that adding more pressure on Anthony to deliver a similar type of devastating performance?
Yeah, look, every fight Anthony goes into, he knows he's got to perform, and he always does. As you say, Deontay Wilder the other week, Dominic Brazil, great knockout performance. He delivered on what he said he'd do. But Anthony will go in there, and he will put in another devastating performance.
So how do you see this fight playing out then? Do you give Andy Ruiz Jr. the chance on taking either 12 rounds, or do you think it will be a bit of a war, because that's how Andy Ruiz is going to try and break Anthony down?
You know what, I think it will be a war. I think Andy Ruiz will go straight in there. He won't wait, he'll go in there and he'll put it on AJ. But you know, AJ's got, as I said, he's got the game plan. But that makes for a great fight, doesn't it? Especially in the heavyweight division.
Now obviously to go through the rest of the card, I know we spoke about it yesterday, having looked over social media, the reaction to it hasn't been great. A lot of people were disappointed with it. What's been your thoughts when you'd have seen those comments across the online world?
I think it's an unbelievable card from top to bottom. You've got the main event, then you've got Callum Smith taking on former world champion Hassan and Dam, just come off from a win against Martin Murray recently. Then next down there, Katie Taylor goes for the undisputed crown against Delphine Bassoon. Only loss, I think she's had one loss in 9 years, something like that. You've got Josh Kelly, who's in the ring now. He's taking on Ray Robinson in a real step up for him. Buatsi, who's still very early on in his career, taking on Marco Antonio Periban, who's, you know, he's got experience, a lot of experience. People talk about he's been out the ring for a while, but I think that's all part of the learning curve for Buatsi. He's going in there with someone who's got experience.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the ring right here from Sunderland, PBK.
Very loud, isn't it?
Pretty boy.
Tommy Coyle against Chris Algieri, which is going to be an absolute war as well. You know, you've got Suleiman Sissoko, you've got Diego Pacheco, you've got Amo Williams. So it's a packed card from top to bottom. People are always going to complain, and they're within their right to put their opinion out there. And you know, but I think it's a great card.
I think the two fights in particular that seemed to keep cropping up with fans' disappointment was Callum Smith versus Ndam, and then Josh Buatsi Periban. We'll start with Smith and Ndam. Knowing Callum's obviously a very big super middleweight, and Ndam was moving up from middle, people are seeing that as a mismatch. I know Hassan's a former world champion at middle, but can you understand why fans would think that, and why fans are going to be looking at it thinking Hassan's just going to be worn down as the fight goes on and it may not test Callum?
I think every fight brings a different test. You know, him being a bit smaller, Callum's obviously the number one 168 pounder that's out there. You know, so I think anyone he goes in with, he'll get the win. I think Callum's also had a long period out. He's been out the ring for 9 months now, and I think it's a perfect fight for him to come back in. I personally don't really understand the sort of stick that's coming in for that fight.
I think it's also because a lot of fans, knowing Callum's number one on the back of a terrific performance against George Groves, they want to see him in those bigger fights against bigger names.
Yeah, they'll definitely come down the line. But now it's a case of getting him back out there. You know, a long period out, getting him back out there and getting him fit again, and it's. I think it'll be a good fight.
So what do you reckon the plan is with Callum? If you was to say now for the rest of this year, do you expect him to fight 2 more times or once more?
Yeah, hopefully we can get him out twice this year. all depends on the fights, doesn't it? It all depends on the fights that come along. So we're going to work on that as soon as June 1st is over. We're already working on plans for the next fight, and we'll get him out there and keep him busy.
And then Josh Buatsi, fans looking at Periban as someone who just hasn't fought for 2 years. Don't think that's going to come back to be a major difference in the fight. Can you understand that again?
Do you know what? I think I know what you said, but it is very loud again. I think, as I said earlier, Periban's got so much experience. You know, he's been around for a long time, and I think that's all part of the learning curve for Buatsi. You know, he can't go into every. I think it adds to his learning process throughout his career, and it's a good fight for him. Sorry, it's very loud. It's very hard to think when it's like that, isn't it?
International light heavyweight champion Joshua-Ruiz.
Great reception for Buatsi. But look, Buatsi's, as I say, he's very early on in his career. He's got a long time in this game, and you know we're going to carry on building him, carry on growing him, and bigger and better fights. But I can't see a problem with that fight.
Well, I think it's credit to Josh that in the sense of how quickly he's found himself being pushed to winning the British title in only his 10th fight last time out against Liam Conroy with another terrific performance. People want to see him, what people want to see with any fighter, just accelerate at those types of paces and to continue to see that through his career. If it was down to you now, what level do you actually think Josh Buatsi is capable of boxing at?
I think, you know, I think you've got to build these guys the right way, and everyone wants them to fight for world titles tomorrow, but sometimes it's not always. It's kind of like Devin Haney. You know, he's 20 years old, for example. He's had 20 fights. He wants to fight for a world title tomorrow. Doesn't necessarily mean it's we want to carry on building these guys, and these kind of fights will build them into where we want to get them to. You know, experience, being in with a guy like Periban with experience, it's gonna add to it. Maybe he goes in there and stops him in the first round. Who knows? But no, that's the sport we're in. But I think it's all about building them the right way, and that's our job to do. And unfortunately, it's not always going to make everyone happy.
He's a fighter that excites me when I watch Josh because he's always very clinical with his performance, never tends to make a mistake. How far off do you believe that he is from world honours?
Went off again. Yeah, look, I think it can happen. You've seen it with Anthony Yard. He's now going to fight Sergei Kovalev apparently in Russia. But I don't think he's necessarily had the experience fights to go into a fight. Like, I hope he wins. I hope he goes out there and wins. But I think that's a case of it's going to take a period of time. But whether that's 6-7 fights down the line, or maybe an opportunity arises earlier. You know, like Anthony Joshua when he fought Charles Martin in his 14th or 15th fight, 16th. I mean, my head's gone. But that's where these opportunities come up, and they're right. So maybe that's okay. Maybe that happens with Joshua Buatsi. So you know we'll carry on working, and obviously we'll have to go at his pace as well, and the pace his team want to go at. Because once you step into that level, there's no sort of turning back, is there? It's right. You're a world champion now. Here's your mandatories. Here's your, you know. So we'll see. He'll carry on developing and growing, and you'll see him in some big fights.
So on Yard Kovalev, both sides seem to have signed the contract from what we've been told. But if that fight is announced officially, how do you see that one playing out?
I think it's a very hard fight. I think it goes back to the fact of how much experience Kovalev's had. Don't get me wrong, I hope Anthony Yard goes in there and does it. And I'm sure he can, he's got the ability to do it. So I think good luck to him. And look, there's Donald Trump. No, that is. Yeah.
Is he turning up on Saturday?
I don't know. Well, he seems to be flying home somewhere. That was good. That was Donald Trump in Marine. Yeah. Look at that. You see everything out here. Yeah, look, going back to Anthony Yard and Kovalev, very tough fight, but maybe it's the right time for Anthony Yard to face Sergei Kovalev, and I hope he does it.
I just want to go back to Joshua then and talk about future potential fights for him. Realistically, will the next fight be one of Deontay Wilder or Tyson Fury?
I think Tyson Fury, very unlikely. Deontay Wilder is quite confusing because one second he says it's not going to happen, the next second he says, oh, it's boxing, it could happen. So, does he actually want it? I don't know. Anthony Joshua wants the biggest fights out there, and you know, hopefully after he puts in a devastating performance on Saturday night. You know, he's sure all everyone is asking him about is Wilder, and that is what, yeah, he wants that fight. But you have to have two sides in for it. You can't just have one. And I don't know whether Wilder necessarily wants that, or he's got other plans. Maybe he's got other plans. Who knows?
Shelley Finkel's supposed to be here on Saturday night. Realistically, do you guys see yourselves having some type of a meeting to discuss anything?
Look, I think he's coming along with the zone to watch the fight. We'll see what happens, but you know, they've been, I think in the past, obviously as you know, with various conversations, I think Shelley's been quite open about it. Hopefully we can get something done. But I don't like keep talking about it because you don't actually talk about anything, do you? You just say the same thing every time, and it doesn't seem to really get anywhere. So I think now's the time. AJ's got to go and do his job, focus on Andy Ruiz. He can't take his eye off the ball with Saturday night's fight, because every fight he goes into it brings its tests and challenges. But he'll do the job. The Deontay Wilder fight is the fight he wants. Hopefully we can do it. If not, the end of the year, let's see.
Well, Frank Smith, I appreciate your time and allowing me to do this interview for a second time. Thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
Cheers, mate. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Frank. Thank you.